6:13 now, 1320 WILS. Well, that's students from both the Michigan State University and University of Michigan reacting to the tuition hikes, yet another year of tuition increases. Today, the U.S. Supreme Court rejected challenges to assault weapons bans in Connecticut and New York. What could the repercussions of that be, and why'd they do that? Let's talk to Edwin Walker, program attorney at U.S. Law Shield. Edwin, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and you guys basically offer service for gun owners that got involved in a shooting. Is that right?
Well, that's correct. It's a legal services company where people become members of the legal services company, and in the event that they ever have any kind of self-defense issues or other firearms issues, then they're provided an attorney with no cost to them.
Why do you think the Supreme Court actually turned away these cases?
Well, as we know, Second Amendment jurisprudence has been very contentious ever since the Heller decision and the McDonald decision, both of which were 5-4 decisions. Of course, the author of those decisions was Judge Scalia, who very unfortunately passed away earlier this year. And so the court is divided 4-4. And so whenever the court does not feel that they have the ability to use a case to expand on the jurisprudence of a particular portion of the law, then they will usually reject the petition for certiorari, which is one of the petitioners has said, "Hey, take a look at this case. We disagree with the appellate case." They will reject that and let the Court of Appeals opinion stand until there is sufficient discord between the appellate circuits that will then basically force the United States Supreme Court to take the case to resolve any conflict.
And so what's going to happen next with these bans?
Well, that means that because of this court decision, and also the Ninth Circuit decision that was a couple of weeks ago that was talking about California law that said that a person didn't have a right to obtain a concealed handgun license. Basically, what those courts have said, since those were all state law challenges, that basically says that state legislatures can put in place gun control laws that at this point the Supreme Court has indicated they are not willing to review.
Are you okay with that? So, I mean, are you okay with states having say in their own gun control laws?
Well, no, I'm not okay with that, because that means that our rights, our Second Amendment rights, are subject to the whims of the state legislatures. Okay. And so just as we wouldn't want state legislatures to tell us where we can protest or what we can read or what church we can go to, there shouldn't be, state legislatures shouldn't have the ability to say that we are not allowed to own particular firearms.
But 7 states right now in the District of Columbia have all enacted laws banning assault weapons. Well, why do you think we're seeing this kind of trend?
Well, I think that you've seen them in states that have more left-leaning legislatures. And it really does work an injustice. I mean, take somebody who lives in upstate New York. They don't live in New York City. They're not, they live in a country area. They go hunting. They go sporting. They want one of these rifles. And just because of a geographic border that's drawn, they may be 5 miles from the Pennsylvania border, and because of the fiction of that border, they don't have the right to own an AR rifle. If they were 5 miles to the south, they would.
Well, that's how it works, obviously. But the issue is that you've got some states like Connecticut where legislators, there's been this horrific incident, the shooting at the school there, and the folks in that state have a reaction to it. The legislature makes a decision. What about that? The voice of the people in these states having the right to set these kinds of limits?
Well, that has been the tension that has existed between people who want their rights protected and people who want the majority of the people to have their will rule. This has been the story basically throughout our constitutional history. And the thing about it is that the Bill of Rights and those rights that are contained therein were specifically designed to protect the rights of the political minority.
But they're not banning guns, right? Guns are legal. They're banning just certain types of assault rifles. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. Well, they are banning a rifle that they are claiming cosmetically meets the definition of their of an assault rifle. It is not technically an assault rifle.
And the clips, too, and they want to ban these extended clips. That's part of the ban in Connecticut. What's wrong with a ban like that, specifically the clips?
Well, because it imposes on people's Second Amendment rights to own and possess firearms. Also,
yeah, but when people say, well, I mean, if you got an extended clip, right? What is it you're going to do with an extended clip? Why does someone really need that, Edwin?
Well, they just simply need it because if they want to carry 30 rounds in their magazine, they should be able to allow it to carry 30 rounds in their magazine. Okay. There are magazines that carry 100 rounds. Yeah. I personally don't carry one because they're too heavy.
Yeah, those on the other side that say that when you do that, you're essentially, I mean, that is the type of weaponry, the type of equipment someone needs to carry out a mass shooting. What do you say to that?
Well, that's just simply an emotional, demagogic type argument.
How so, though? Isn't that what we're seeing, whether it's Orlando or in Connecticut? Are we not seeing these extended clips being used?
Well, basically, if you follow that line of logic, the government eventually will have to just simply outlaw pockets. Because even if they've outlawed, 30-round magazines, 10-round magazines are still lawful. And so, you're either going to be for prohibiting and confiscating firearms or you're not.
Okay. But the other side says there are limits you can set, right? They're saying that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Well, why do you see it that way?
Well, like I said, this is the classic slippery slope argument. If you say that it's okay to set a magazine limit at 10 rounds, well, then next year somebody will say, well, hey, why don't we set a magazine round limit at 5 rounds? And then after that, it'll be 3 rounds, and then it'll be 1 round. Okay. It's just simply the classic slippery slope argument.
So in a sense, you're saying
a 30-round magazine. A 30-round magazine is really a standard-sized magazine. There's nothing extraordinary about a 30-round magazine.
Yeah. You say you wouldn't use one. It's just too heavy. Is that what it is?
Well, no. The 100-round. I was making a point. They make magazines in several different sizes. Uh-huh. They make 10, 15, 30, even up to 100. I'm just saying that, and then it is possible to get a 100-round magazine. However, I said for my own personal preference, and it's perfectly legal. I could go down to the gun store and get one right now. But I wouldn't because it would just simply be too heavy for me to carry.
Do you think, because we're seeing now a potential for some kind of gun control measure being considered in the Senate, do you think we're eventually going to see some kind of a national limit set when it comes to guns?
I do not think so because unlike the people who get all the television coverage, there is a vast number of people in this country who understand that this really is an attack on one of our very fundamental rights, and that fundamental right is the right to self-defense. There are over 5 million AR-style rifles out there in the hands of private individuals, and if 1 or 2 or however many, the media says, oh, we've had 29 mass shootings or whatever there may be. What is 29 as a percentage of 5 million?
A small percentage, right? But
it is a statistically insignificant and negligible percentage of the rifle.
Well, of course, when the shootings happen, though, they get all our attention, and people are traumatized, especially those affected directly. But look, it's a horrific traumatizing event, and there's overwhelming amount of sympathy for those people, and it clearly shouldn't have happened. However, keep in mind that we've always had laws that criminalize the conduct with inanimate objects, but that does not make the inanimate objects in and of themselves, the possession of them, a criminal act. It's the fact that we want to prevent conduct, and we do try to prevent conduct, and there are laws against that conduct. I mean, murder has been against the law since no question. Too bad we can't catch them before they commit some of these things. Hey, is Edwin Walker, program attorney for U.S. Law Shield? U.S. Law Shield. Edwin Walker. Edwin, thanks.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I certainly appreciate it.
Yep.